Hello and welcome to Michael's Minty Music for today. Today we review Queen's 1978 album, Jazz. It's really great, almost a perfect album, and certainly one of their best albums. I really love this album, and I think it's probably one of the greatest albums of all time. So, yeah, let's get into it. This is the track listing, and these are the tracks that added to my playlist. 8 out of 13, so just under 75% technically. This album's certainly great. I would argue it's almost perfect. First off, none of the songs on this album sound the same. Every song is very unique, despite some of them being similar styles. There's some similar styles here, but all the songs sound unique. So every song here is at least good. There are no bad songs, although there are certainly some that stand out better than others. The main thing here, though, is that the album flows perfectly. It's a prime example of how you can have some songs on the album that are just sort of good and still make a perfect album out of it. It goes from sort of high energy to medium to low and then back up to high just in the first half. The second half is possibly even better than the first half. Super high energy opening tracks leading into slower middle tracks until Don't Stop Me Now pushes it into the final track. More of that jazz, which is placed perfectly at the end of the album. You can't end it with anything more than that, and that song doesn't work in any other context than at the end of this album. I really love it also when a band puts a really big hit towards the end of the album with Don't Stop Me Now. It can backfire if your opening tracks aren't good enough, but when it works, it really works amazingly. One Republic also did this on their 2016 album, Oh My My, and it worked really well there too. It's the same sort of deal. So overall, I would say this album is probably the best, or at least my favorite, from the late 70s. One of the best albums from the late 70s, and one of the best albums of all time, for sure. At the very least, in my opinion, although I'm sure people would disagree. There were 2 singles released before the album, Bicycle Race and Fat Bottom Girls, both of which were big hits, along with Don't Stop Me Now, which is probably one of their most recognizable songs, all of them big hits. My favorite here is that same song, for sure. Don't Stop Me Now is just a really good song, and I have the benefit of not listening to the radio when it was super popular, so never got overplayed for me. My favorite non-hit track, probably gotta go with Dead on Time, though. That one's one that you may not have heard of that's good, so go check that one out. This is my favorite Queen album, and I definitely think it's one of their best albums. It's for sure a step above 3rd and 4th place on this ranking, Sheer Heart Attack and Made in Heaven. The Game is really close because that album is also really good, but I think that Jazz just comes together in a different way that makes it a little bit better. Jazz sort of has its own style that comes together really well. This is also my favorite album from 1978, beating out Billy Joel's 52nd Street and Outlandos de Amor by The Police, both of which are pretty good albums, but they're not on the level of Jazz in my opinion. So this is an easy decision for me, although both of those albums could take it in a less contested year, I guess. Next up is Avril Lavigne's most recent 2021 album, Love Sucks, spelled like that. Her last album was pretty decent, so I'm interested to see where this one goes. So stay tuned for that, and as always, stay minty.